Welcome back to another episode of the Aquademia podcast. I'm your host, Justin Grant.
And I'm Maddie Cassidy.
And today we will be discussing the species Barramundi. We'll be sitting down with Matthew Mangan to discuss all of the ins and outs of the species, the marketplace, the regions where it's popular. It was a great conversation, and I think you're going to enjoy it. But before we jump into that conversation, we want you to know that we are on social media. We are on Twitter. Go ahead and find us and follow us. Handle is @AquademiaPod. If you want to contact the podcast for any reason, you can fill out our online form, which is located at globalseafood.org/podcast.
And if you like this episode, if you like what we're doing, then you should definitely subscribe to the podcast on whichever podcast platform you're listening to us on so that you can get every episode downloaded directly to your device as soon as it comes out. You can also leave us a rating and review on whichever podcast platform is your choice. We really appreciate it. It helps us get out there to new people that might not have heard about us before.
And with that, enjoy this episode with Matthew Mangan, the co-founder of MainStream Aquaculture and the current president of MainStream USA.
Welcome to the Aquademia podcast.
Our diet is hurting the environment in myriad ways. I mean, we desperately need to eat more seafood.
This is a pioneering industry with a whole lot of people who have really good ideas and a lot of experience and are unafraid.
Aquademia is your go-to podcast for a fresh take on all things seafood.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Aquademia podcast. We are sitting down today with Matthew Mangan, who is the co-founder of MainStream Aquaculture and the current president of MainStream USA. Matt, thanks for joining us today.
No problem. Pleased to be here.
So we are going to be going through a bunch of different topics during this episode. We want to spend the majority of the episode learning about Barramundi, that fish species, kind of dissecting the ins and outs of everything that goes around what that species is, the marketplace surrounding it, and all of its wonderful features. And then we want to talk about MainStream Aquaculture and its brand, its farms, specifically the one that's in Arizona, the Desert Springs Barramundi Farm. But before we get into any of that, we want to learn about you. So, reflecting on your journey, could you provide our listeners with some highlights on the path that led you to your current position with MainStream Aquaculture?
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone. My name's Matthew Mangan. I've been involved with MainStream Aquaculture for some 23 years now and currently hold the position of head of business here in the US. My journey at MainStream began back in 2001. Where along with 3 other colleagues, we went about starting a recirculating aquaculture facility in Melbourne, Australia. That group consisted of 2 highly respected scientists, a finance professional, and myself, who brought the mechanical and construction skills to the table. I guess my initial role was the construction of our first RAS facility. And following that, we spent a few years fine-tuning those operations before continuing the expansion of the Melbourne operations. It was during that time that I held the position of head of operations and along with that managed the sales side of the business. This was really helpful for me, I guess, in that it really allowed me the opportunity to understand the obstacles and opportunities that MainStream would face as we focused on growth. As the business continued to mature, we were able to bring on board some really high-level individuals, and in 2014 we went on a path of industrialisation that saw us complete the largest indoor recirculating facility in the Southern Hemisphere in 2017. While we felt that was a really significant move for the business and it was a really exciting time for us, we also took the view that it was important to look at diversifying our operations, and at that time we were looking at making steps towards some pond-based aquaculture production systems. And so I guess for me, over the following 3 to 4 years, around that time, I was really, really fortunate to be intimately involved in the development of those assets and worked with some of Australia's best farming operations within the barramundi industry. So that really allowed me to do a deep dive on a lot of the benefits and a lot of the challenges that come with a different type of aquaculture production to what I'd been used to. I'd typically been heavily focused, obviously, on the RAS, and so now I was learning a lot about the pond farming industry, and really good time for me. I guess in parallel to that, we'd also been investigating the opportunity for barramundi farming within the United States. And around a similar time, we'd identified a few sites of interest. And, COVID slowed that process down for us somewhat, but ultimately in July of 2022, we made our first acquisition of a site in the US in the form of a 1,100-acre property here in Arizona, where we're now currently farming barramundi and supplying locally and into the broader West Coast markets. So I guess for me, while the journey has been a long one, we've really achieved a lot in that time, and I feel we now have the best people and the greatest assets in the industry, which makes for an exciting future. And I'm very pleased to be able to contribute to the team as we grow our barramundi locally here in Arizona.
Yeah, I'm already so excited just hearing that little blip of your background, Matthew. So as we've hinted at, today our main focus is on the species of barramundi, which is a species that most of our listeners have probably heard of at some point, but there's just so much to the species that there's a lot to explore. So we thought it would be great to do an entire episode all about this species. So Matthew, since you've had a ton of experience in the realm of barramundi, can you just share a preliminary overview of some facts about barramundi, maybe why you and your business partners selected that to be your species? Like, what makes barramundi stand out among other species?
Yeah, so barramundi, a little bit of a brief background on barramundi, I guess. It's Australia's number one native species. In the wild, they typically spawn at the mouth of rivers in salt water. Barramundi are highly targeted by recreational fishers. They're really famous for their great tenacity and when hooked are a great game and sports fish. Barramundi are in the sea bass family, and they're silver in colour with really large scales. The word barramundi is an Aboriginal word for large-scaled river fish. And they're really very, very unique animals. Some interesting facts about barramundi, I guess, is all barramundi are born males and they convert to females at around about 5 or 6 kilos in size, or around about 11 pounds. They'll convert over to females.
Wow.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. They can also live in either saltwater or freshwater, depending on their environment, which is pretty interesting. In the wild, typical barramundi will grow to sort of around 4 feet long, but have been found as big as 6 feet long, and in some cases, been found at around 100 pounds in weight. So they do have the ability to grow quite big, but typically in production, we're harvesting and selling those barramundi at around about sort of the 8-pound mark. They're very robust fish. They're very good for farming in that they do well in a lot of environments. So we identified early on that the robustness of the fish, along with the quality, taste and texture of the fish, it really was appropriate for us to push forward, and we now believe that the barramundi can be dominant white-fleshed finfish served up globally. So it really is an interesting fish.
So thinking of production methods, and you already discussed this, but is there, they can be wild-caught, people who recreationally fish for them, and honestly, that sounds actually really exciting to be reeling in a 4-foot fish that weighs that much. And if it's in that sea bass family, that must put up quite the fight. That must be really fun to do. But so it's wild caught. It's obviously farm raised. That's what you're working on. Where I'd like to go next is the marketplace, right? It's very popular in Australia, but you have farms not only there, but in the United States. What sort of marketing techniques have you used to try to boast this species in regions where it might not be as popular?
Yeah, so I guess obviously back home in Australia, barramundi is universally known and widely accepted as a high quality eating fish. It's represented on most restaurant menus throughout the country and is a standard item on the shopping list for cooking at home. So back home in Australia, we have a really high quality brand. Barramundi is incredibly well respected and well known. I guess here in the US, it's not as well known, and we've got a job to do to develop our brand and work on that marketing piece of the business to really introduce it to the US. I guess back home we have an environment where product is exceptionally well known, but the market bandwidth is, in comparison to the US, for example, relatively limited. So there's a reason why we're here in Arizona right now, and one of those reasons is proximity to market. So to give you a little example there, back home in Australia, we have a population of 27 million people in the entire country. We've located ourselves here in Arizona, which is approximately about a 6-hour drive into a place called California that currently has close to 37 million people sitting in that state alone. So it's quite incredible. And for us, that's the challenge. We have a population base here in the US that far outweighs anything we see back at home, but we need to educate that population. So that's a big part of the role, a big part of our job over the coming few years, and we're working on that now, and we're getting some really good traction. People are really accepting of our product so far. Some are a little shocked to hear that you can grow barramundi out in the middle of the desert, but you certainly can. So yeah, we've got a big job, but one that I think we'll be quite successful at.
Well, we are going to help you a little bit with that journey. And we have a lot of listeners all around the world, specifically in the United States. And I think one of the questions that some of our listeners, some of our consumers here that are out shopping and they see barramundi in the supermarket, right? So my next question that might help lean some consumers into purchasing some barramundi would be, tell me a little bit about how do you prepare barramundi for cooking? What is the flavor profile of barramundi? Kind of go into some detail and what a consumer can expect if they purchase barramundi at the supermarket.
Yeah, so barramundi can be prepared in a number of ways, making it a really versatile fish. It can be cooked whole, filleted, portioned, skin on, skin off. It can be baked or pan-fried, placed on the grill in most ways that you can think of. So it's incredibly versatile. in that sense. Personally, myself, I enjoy it simply fried in the pan with the skin on. It creates a really crispy texture, followed by a really smooth, buttery flesh. So the flavour profiles, it's a relatively mild fish. So it's not a really fishy type fish. It's quite mild, mellow with a smooth, buttery and subtle sweet flavour, which means it pairs really well with different sauces and won't compete with other prominent flavours in a recipe. So, the nutritional value that comes along with it is also really good. It's a really lean protein. It's low in calories, and it's about half the calories of salmon, which is pretty good, and really sort of low in total fats. It's got about 600 to 800 milligrams of omega-3s in a sort of typical serving, and those omega-3s play a vital role in both brain and heart health. So the nutritional values of barramundi are really exceptional, along with most fish that you'll eat. A lot of the fish out there, I think as a society, I think people are starting to realise the value of eating fish and seafood, and that's part of the campaign, I guess, is around building the brand. It's also around educating people here in the US that, hey, you've got a really healthy, flavoursome fish product that is locally grown, and we're bringing it to you as fresh as you can get it. So really exciting, I think.
Yeah, I think just to reiterate kind of what you were talking about is there is a movement, and I do think seafood consumption in regions where typically isn't as high as other regions, specifically the United States, the education piece, there's a lot of players in that space that are really trying to, I'm using air quotes, no one can see it, move that needle of having more and more Americans eating their required weekly servings of seafood. And I think it is a challenge because it's not as simple as pork, chicken, beef, which is one species. Seafood is very, very vast. There's shellfish, there's fish, there's so many different things to consider where some consumers might just get overwhelmed and go to their safety net, pun intended. But I do think the way that you talked about the flavor profile, I think a lot of people could compare that barramundi to other whitefish that they've tried in the past, and we just need to get more people comfortable bringing it home and trying new recipes, throw it on the grill, like you said, fry it in a pan, broil it, whatever. And that's part of the mission that we're doing here at GSA, is just making people comfortable with different types of recipes and ways to prepare seafood. It doesn't have to be overly complicated, and there's a lot of options out there.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think that another important factor is consistency of supply. I think that
yes.
Certainly back home in Australia, and I expect that it's similar issues here in the US. Products come and go at different times. I think salmon's a good example of a finfish that has been domesticated and is available year round and is incredibly well known globally and accepted. I think that we have an opportunity here with whiteflesh fish, and we as a company genuinely believe that barramundi is the species that can step up and become that year-round domesticated, well-known and respected fish protein that's available consistently. And I think that's a real important component, is making sure that not only you're supplying a really high-quality product, but you can do it at scale year-round.
That's amazing. And I feel like that's a really important differentiation point, that consistency of it. So kind of going off of that, where do you see most of the demand for barramundi? And I'm sure that this differs a lot between Australia and the US and anywhere else in the world, but primarily, do you see the demand for barramundi in retail or food service?
I think both. without trying to generalize, I think it's both. I think when we look at food service, I think that there is an opportunity to, again, supply this fantastic product at value and getting it into national retailers, getting it into white tablecloth restaurants is something that I think is very achievable once we, again, provide the industry with confidence that not only is this a really high quality product, but it's produced right here in the United States. It's and it can be delivered consistently and freshly.
You don't have to live at a coastal town to get fresh seafood, right? Technology, advancements in facility types that are producing these species. You have a barramundi farm in Arizona, the desert. People are like, that's crazy. But you know what? It works, and it allows you to reach a wider reach of consumers that want fresh, tasty seafood, and you can accomplish that. But I want to talk about Arizona. Tell us a little bit about Desert Springs Barramundi in Arizona. What are the benefits of running Barramundi Farm in the desert?
Yeah. So we see the United States as the next logical step in growth for MainStream, and importantly, believe it's a great opportunity to continue to drive that position that I spoke about earlier as the dominant white flesh finfish globally. We believe it's strong farming attributes, its cooking versatility, along with the health benefits it provides with the high omega-3s. Barramundi can be equally accepted here in the United States as back home in Australia. So when we began our investigations into the US opportunity, we knew the environmental conditions would play a critical part to our success.
Yeah.
But Barramundi being a warm water species, we need to ensure the conditions would be suitable, and the southwest region of Arizona was identified as a strong geographic location and based on a few key factors. So why do we farm out in the desert? The first one is obviously the climate. So it's something certainly myself and my family have had to adjust to. But the summers, I can say with a confidence, are really hot. They're really hot out here. So we have extended periods on site. My wife says it's like living inside a hairdryer. We've adjusted to it now, so it's fine. But we see extended periods on site of around 120 Fahrenheit during the day, and that drops down to about 90 to 95 Fahrenheit at night. So that's sort of through your peak summer period, but generally you've got 9 to 10 months of the year where you've got optimal growing conditions for barramundi. So really warm water, warm environment, really good growing conditions. But during the winter period, we do see significant drops in both the nightly and daytime temps, which, our barramundi are most vulnerable during that time. So we need to be very conscious of that. And so what we've been doing, certainly over the recent winter, which we're just coming out of now, we've been running a few R&D trials around, how can we manage that, I guess, heat loss in the ponds through the sort of the winter conditions. Sometimes, during winter, we get down, the ambient temperatures getting down to near freezing point. So you're losing heat out of the ponds through the nighttime periods, and so we need to be conscious of that and make sure that we, certainly as we scale up, that we can find solutions to that drop in temperature through the winter period. So we've got some really interesting sort of things going on there where we feel that we'll be able to just manage that drop in temperature for that sort of, it's probably about a 2-month period, I guess, where we just need to take a little extra care for the barramundi as they just work their way through that period. Things like thermal blankets. So I've run a few trials of late just with some thermal coverings, which has been used in pond applications, not for aquaculture, but for different industries where they'll put a thermal blanket on to retain heat. And that works incredibly well. There's a few other little challenges that come with that, but that's probably, I guess, one of the little sort of trials that we've been trialing there. So I guess why are we out here? First of all, I guess the climate. Overall it's very good. We have a sustainable geothermal water source in the region as well. So we bring the water up through groundwater wells and run the water through the ponds. The water comes out at between 75 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're able to run that water through the ponds, and the barramundi perform exceptionally well. I guess the third thing is proximity to market, and like I mentioned to you before, we're about a 6-hour trucking distance away from California, where it's a huge population. It's quite incredible, really, that we've got a state that sits inside the US that has so many people, and it's quite incredible. So that's a great opportunity for us to build that I spoke about earlier. Take our technologies, take our farming know-how, and be able to introduce it to a market that is on our doorstep, essentially. And what that does is, I think it's important that when you're building a brand to really be connected with the market and really have your finger on the pulse and understand what's truly happening. So we have some really good relationships with a number of groups in California that provide us with really great feedback on the product. We're able to get in there and do presentations with different groups and really put our brand out there on display. So the proximity to the market is another really good one. But I think the climate, geothermal water source, and proximity to the market are the three driving factors for farming out in the desert.
Right. I'm curious, what is your favorite part of the work that you're doing down there?
Yeah, well, for me, to simplify it right down, what I really enjoy is I really enjoy the ground up type stuff. So for me, I've always, I think when I came into this business, very privileged to be surrounded by really intelligent people and being able to, just absorb that along the way. But ultimately for me, I've always liked to see things develop and come up out of the ground, I guess, and the challenges that come with that. So for me, I guess over the last 23 years, we've built an outstanding business. We've had many challenges along the way. We've overcome them, and we've built a really substantial business. Coming to the US and coming to Arizona, it's almost, for me, it's going back to that grassroots type environment again, almost where we've got to overcome those new challenges. We've got to develop a market. We've got to get in there and really put the barramundi up front and where it belongs. And so for me, I really enjoy that. I really enjoy, that really ground up approach. And, like I said, when we bought the Arizona site, it was previously a tilapia farm. So it had existing assets on it. So we moved towards that. We had a few different sort of sites identified. Some were greenfield sites, but this site in particular was a site with some aquaculture ponds and infrastructure on it. So we leaned towards that as our focus, because that allowed us to sort of hit the ground running, I guess, stock it with barramundi, get them up to market size, and really accelerate that entry into the marketplace and start to build our brand. I get really excited about the growth phase that's on the horizon for us, and in the very near future, we have 1,100 acres of land there there's a lot of land ready to go for development. And so for me, it's, building the brand, educating the public, working with the team on site around operational competencies. And the really big one for me is I really get a thrill out of developments.
So, Matt, I want to just clarify something, mostly for our listeners, because they may get really interested, may start searching on the internet for MainStream Aquaculture, and I just wanted to kind of break down a couple things. And so correct me if I mislabel anything, but MainStream Aquaculture, that is the company name. Infinity Blue is the brand for MainStream's table fish, Barramundi. And then we specifically were talking about one of your farms, which is Desert Springs, but obviously you have multiple farms. But is that the general kind of hierarchy of how MainStream Aquaculture is broken down?
Yeah, that's correct. So MainStream Aquaculture is MainStream Aquaculture Group is the broader company, and Infinity Blue is our brand. Then you'll have the different site locations, as you mentioned. So you've got Desert Springs, we have Daintree, Barramundi, and all of the different farming locations sit under that Infinity Blue brand. Yeah.
So as we're wrapping up our conversation, is there anything else that you would like to get out there? Anything that we didn't touch upon in the interview that you wanted to make sure to talk about?
Well, I guess just from my perspective, we're really excited about being in the United States, where we're really passionate about aquaculture and what we do. We feel that we're a really sustainable business that runs its aquaculture businesses in a really sustainable way. All of our farms are BAP accredited, best aquaculture practices, and we're really proud that it was 12 months from the point of which we took over the farm that the Desert Springs site was certified with that BAP accreditation, which is really, really important to us. So the message out to people, I guess, is there's a really interesting industry popping up here in Arizona, and we will continue to grow that opportunity. And I think that ultimately over the next 5 years, we'll probably expand beyond the current Desert Springs site, and keep a lookout for MainStream Aquaculture, and look out for the Infinity Blue product. Only recently have had our product placed in the Fry's supermarkets throughout Arizona. We hope to be into California if we have some success in the Arizona, the state of Arizona. We'll see that roll into California, and I think that's a really important step for our future sort of growth of our business, and being able to get the this great product into the hands of the residents out there in right now Arizona, but hopefully broader US, and try it out. It's a great product, huge health benefits, and availability is something that we're going to be providing year round.
Well, I think any consumer that's listening to this episode that needs some visual courage to get out there and try this species, I think there are some amazing images on your websites that really you look at it and just say, get in my belly right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd encourage people to check our website out and look at the different farming operations we have in different locations. You'll see that we are a genuine producer of really sustainable fish, barramundi, and we're really proud to be bringing that to the United States.
And we'll make sure to make it really easy for our listeners to navigate any of those websites that are connected to things that we've talked about during this conversation. So all of those links will be in our show notes.
Yes. Excellent.
So Matt, I just, on behalf of Maddie and myself, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us and talk about the in and outs of MainStream Aquaculture, Barramundi as a species. We wish you the best of luck in your endeavors and your expansions with the species. And thanks again for joining us.
Oh, thanks, Justin and Maddie, for having me on and helping us get the message out that there's Barramundi out here in Arizona, and try it out. It's a great fish.
Folks, that was our conversation with Matthew Mangan. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something.
If you're listening to this episode within a month or so of when it first comes out, we have a survey live on our website, which is globalseafood.org/podcast. It takes 90 seconds to fill out. It's super short, and you can help be a part of our next episode. We are also very appreciative of all of our subscribers, so please give us a subscribe on your podcast platform.
Also give us a subscribe or a follow on Twitter at Aquademia Pod. If you want to contact us for any reason, you can do so with our online form, which is located at globalseafood.org/podcast.
And leave us a rating or review on whichever podcast platform you're listening to us on.
Ciao.
Bye.